I should have kept my mouth shut. That's what my father always told me. Imani, your curiosity will get you killed one day. Turns out, he was right. The wine cellar of Lotus Crown Restaurant wasn't supposed to be dangerous. It was just rows of expensive bottles in temperature-controlled darkness, the kind of place where Inchen's elite stored their 30-year-old whiskeys and Italian reds that cost more than my monthly rent. I'd been working there for 6 months, perfecting my Korean, memorizing wine regions, staying invisible the way immigrants learn to do. Keep your head down. Smile. Don't make waves. But that night, everything changed. If you're interested in more stories like this, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me what you think so far. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. The request was simple enough. Mr. Choi's table wanted a 2015 Chateau Margaux. I descended the stone steps into the cellar, my heels clicking against ancient tile. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. My breath misted in the cold air. I was running my fingers along the labels, squinting in the dim light, when I heard voices. Italian, fast and angry. I froze behind a rack of Burgundy, my heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. Durante il dolce, finestra est, fallo sembrare I russi. A woman's voice, cold as the wine cellar air. During dessert, east window. Make it look like the Russians. My Italian wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. Good enough to know I was hearing something I shouldn't. Good enough to know that someone was about to die. I pressed myself against the wall, praying the shadows would hide me. Through the gaps between wine bottles, I could see her, Valentina Ricci. Everyone in the restaurant knew her. Italian-Korean, engaged to Daesung Choi, one of the most powerful men in Incheon. She was beautiful in that untouchable way, like a blade wrapped in silk. Raphael conferma, she continued. Il mio fidanzato non vedrà l'alba. Raphael confirms. My fiancé won't see dawn. My blood turned to ice. She was ordering a hit on her own fiancé. On Daesung Choi. On the man currently sitting upstairs in the private dining room, probably reading through business reports while he waited for his wine. A bodyguard's shadow fell across the cellar entrance. I held my breath until my lungs burned. He swept a flashlight across the room, the beam passing inches from my face. I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't exist. After an eternity, they left. I waited another 5 minutes in the darkness, my legs shaking so badly I thought I might collapse. When I finally climbed those stairs back to the restaurant floor, the world looked different. The soft lighting seemed sinister, every smile hiding a knife, every conversation a potential death sentence. I should have pretended I heard nothing, should have delivered the wine, collected my tips, gone home to my tiny apartment in Bupyeong. But I kept thinking about 2 months ago. A drunk businessman had grabbed my wrist during service, wouldn't let go, making comments in slurred Korean about African women. I'd been frozen, terrified of making a scene, of losing my job. Daesung Choi had stood up from his table. He'd walked over with that predatory grace of his, leaned down and said 3 quiet words in Korean. I didn't hear what they were, but the businessman had released me immediately, apologized, left the restaurant, and never came back. Mr. Choi had returned to his meal like nothing happened, never mentioned it, never expected thanks, just handled it. Now someone wanted him dead, and only I knew. My hands shook as I grabbed a wine list from behind the bar. I flipped it over, found a pen, and wrote in English. Your fiancé ordered dessert. The window serves it at 9 p.m., East Side. The words looked insane on paper, cryptic, desperate. But what else could I do? Walk up to a mob boss and announce his bride wanted him murdered? I approached his table, my heart trying to escape through my throat. He sat alone, as always, his back to the wall, eyes that saw everything. Even in a Tom Ford suit, you could tell he was dangerous. It was in the way he held himself, coiled, controlled, like a blade in a sheath. I placed the wine bottle down, slid the note under his water glass with trembling fingers. For a moment, nothing happened. He reached for the glass, saw the paper, unfolded it with those long, elegant fingers. I forced myself to walk away, forced myself not to run. Behind me, I felt rather than saw him read it. The air in the room changed, charged with electricity. When I finally dared to glance back, his eyes were on me. Dark, intense, calculating. Not angry, assessing, trying to determine if this was a trap or a lifeline. I held his gaze for 3 heartbeats, tried to convey with my eyes what I couldn't say aloud. I'm telling the truth. You're in danger. Please believe me. Something shifted in his expression. He gave the slightest nod, so small anyone else would have missed it, and pulled out his phone. Within minutes, his security team began repositioning. Subtle, professional, but I saw it. And across the restaurant, so did Valentina. Her eyes found mine across the dining room, and I watched the realization dawn on her perfect face. She knew. Somehow, she knew I'd warned him. She pulled out her phone, typed frantically, and I understood with crystal clarity that I'd just signed my own death warrant. 9 p.m. arrived like an execution. I was in the kitchen when the first window shattered. The sound of gunfire is different in real life than in movies. Sharper, louder, more final. Screams erupted from the dining room. Plates crashed. Someone shouted in Korean. I dropped to the floor on instinct, my mind blank with terror. This was because of me. I'd done this. The kitchen door burst open. Men in black, tactical gear flooded in, guns raised. They weren't police. They moved like predators, eyes scanning for targets. Jiao Dao nega nu har, one of them shouted in Mandarin. Find the girl. Me. They were looking for me. I crawled behind the prep station, pressed against industrial refrigerators, trying to make myself invisible again. But there's no hiding when people want you dead. A hand grabbed my arm. I opened my mouth to scream. Don't! The voice was low, commanding, unmistakably his. Daesung Choi pulled me to my feet with one hand, a gun in the other. Up close, he was even more intense. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that missed nothing, a small scar above his left eyebrow that somehow made him more devastating. Stay behind me, he ordered in English, his accent barely noticeable. I can't. You don't have a choice anymore. He was right. The moment I'd written that note, I'd chosen a side. Now I just had to survive it. We moved through the kitchen like dancers in a violent ballet. Dez, I'd heard his men call him that, fired twice without seeming to aim. Both shots found targets. He fought with the efficiency of someone who'd killed before and would again. No hesitation, no mercy. A man came at us from the left. Dez grabbed a chef's knife from the counter and threw it in one fluid motion. It buried itself in the attacker's shoulder. The man went down screaming. Storage room, Dez said, pulling me toward the back. There's a tunnel to the parking garage. How do you... I own this building. Of course he did. We burst through the storage room door into a narrow corridor lined with dry goods and cleaning supplies. Behind us, footsteps pounded. Shouts in Italian and Korean and Mandarin echoed through the kitchen. The tunnel entrance was hidden behind a shelf of rice sacks. Dez pulled it open with one hand, revealing concrete steps descending into darkness. Go. I didn't argue. I ran down the steps, Dez right behind me. He slammed the door shut and threw a bolt. Something heavy hit it from the other side, but the metal held. for now. The tunnel was claustrophobic, lit only by emergency lights. Our footsteps echoed. My heels clicked against concrete until I kicked them off, running barefoot on cold stone. "Why are they after me?" I gasped, though I already knew. "Because you're a witness. Because Valentina can't have loose ends. I didn't see anything illegal. You saw enough." We reached the parking garage. Dez's car was exactly what I'd expected. A black Genesis G90, armored, engine already running. He must have signaled his driver before we left the restaurant. We were 10 feet from the car when they found us. 3 men emerged from behind a concrete pillar. The lead one raised his gun, aiming at my head. Dez moved faster than should have been possible. He shoved me aside, fired twice. 1 man dropped. The other 2 scattered for cover. "Get in the car!" Dez shouted. I ran. Bullets sparked off concrete behind me. One whizzed past my ear so close I felt the heat. I dove into the back seat, and Dez threw himself in after me. The driver hit the gas before the door even closed. Bullets pinged off bulletproof glass. The car's tires screamed as we careened up the parking garage ramps. More men tried to block our exit. The driver, a huge man with Ghanaian features, simply drove through them, scattering bodies like bowling pins. We exploded onto the street, running red lights, weaving through traffic. I twisted to look back. The restaurant was chaos. Police lights, ambulances, people running. My old life disappearing in the rearview mirror. I turned to face forward and found Dez watching me with those unreadable dark eyes. "Where are you taking me?" My voice shook. "Somewhere safe." "I should go to the police." His laugh was cold, humorless. "The police? Half of them are on Valentina's payroll. The other half are on mine. You're in my world now, Imani. The only way out is through." He knew my name. Of course he did. He probably knew everything about me. My visa status, my father's medical bills, the fact that I sent money home to Lagos every month. "How do you know my name?" "I make it my business to know everyone who works in my establishments, especially the ones who save my life." The weight of what I'd done hit me. I'd saved a mob boss. I'd made an enemy of his fiancée. I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I'm not safe anywhere now, am I? Dez's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes, almost like regret. Almost. "No," he said quietly. "You're not." Rain started to fall, streaking the windows. The city lights blurred into abstract patterns. I watched my reflection in the glass, a scared girl in a wine-stained uniform, long curly hair coming loose from its pins, brown eyes too wide with shock. The last glimpse of the person I used to be. Don't forget to like this video and drop a comment telling me if you think Imani made the right choice. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the end, because what happens next will leave you speechless. The drive took 40 minutes. We left the bright lights of downtown Incheon behind, heading toward the coast. The city gave way to darkness, then to a single road leading to what looked like a private island connected by a narrow bridge. The fortress. That's what Dez's driver called it. And the name fit. It rose from black water like something out of a brutal dream. Concrete and glass, all sharp angles and dark windows. Modernist architecture taken to its logical extreme. Beautiful in a cold, unforgiving way, like the man who owned it. Guards at the gate waved us through without question. We drove up a winding path lined with surveillance cameras and motion sensors. This wasn't a home, it was a stronghold. The car stopped in an underground garage. Dez got out and I followed on shaking legs. My feet were cut from running barefoot through the parking garage. I hadn't even noticed until now. Blood left small prints on the pristine concrete. Dez saw it. His jaw tightened. He turned to his driver. Marcus, get the medical kit and have Chef prepare something. She needs to eat. I'm fine. You're in shock. He said it matter-of-factly, not unkindly. Come. I followed him into an elevator. Sleek. Mirrored. I caught sight of myself and barely recognized the woman staring back. Somewhere between the wine cellar and this moment, I'd become someone else. The elevator opened into a penthouse that should have been in an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the ocean, minimalist furniture, art that probably cost more than I'd make in 10 years. Everything in shades of black, white, and gray. Cold, controlled, like him. Sit, Dez said, gesturing to a leather sofa. I sat. Marcus appeared with a first aid kit and disappeared just as quickly. Dez knelt in front of me, this powerful, dangerous man on his knees, and began cleaning the cuts on my feet. His touch was surprisingly gentle, competent. He'd done this before. You didn't have to warn me, he said quietly, not looking up from his work. Why did you? You helped me once. When that businessman... That was nothing. It wasn't nothing to me. He glanced up, and our eyes met. For a moment, I saw past the armor, saw something almost human underneath. Then it was gone, and he was the mob boss again. He finished bandaging my feet and stood. You'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow, we'll discuss the situation. What situation? The one where Valentina Ricci wants you dead, and I'm the only thing standing between you and a bullet. He walked toward the windows, hands in his pockets, backlit by the city lights. Even in profile, he was striking. Sharp cheekbones, strong nose, that perfectly styled black hair just begging to be messed up. I mentally slapped myself. The man was a criminal, a killer. I'd just watched him shoot people without hesitation, but he'd also saved my life. Get some rest, he said without turning around. Tomorrow, everything changes. A woman appeared, mid-30s, beautiful in a severe way, eyes like chips of ice. So-Yan will show you to your room, Dez continued. Everything you need is there. So-Yan smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. This way, Miss Okafor. I followed her down a hallway lined with abstract art. She opened a door to reveal a bedroom that was bigger than my entire apartment. King-sized bed, ensuite bathroom, a wall of windows overlooking the ocean, and a lock on the outside. Sleep well, So-Yan said, and closed the door. I heard the lock click. I was in a gilded cage. I walked to the windows, pressed my forehead against the cool glass. Below, waves crashed against rocks. Above, stars I'd never seen in the city lights. Behind me, a locked door and a dangerous man who now controlled my fate. I should have been terrified. And I was. But underneath the terror was something else. Something I didn't want to examine too closely. The way Dez had looked at me. The gentleness in his hands as he'd bandaged my feet. The protective fury in his eyes when he'd pulled me behind him in the kitchen. I was his prisoner, his problem, his responsibility. But the way he'd said my name, Imani, like he was tasting it, learning it, I shook my head. Stockholm Syndrome. That's what this was. Trauma bonding. My brain trying to make sense of an insane situation by attaching to my captor. Nothing more. I didn't believe it even as I thought it. I found pajamas in the dresser, silk, expensive, exactly my size. Of course. Dez had said he made it his business to know his employees. Apparently, that included their measurements. I changed, crawled into the enormous bed, and lay there staring at the ceiling. Sleep should have been impossible. But adrenaline crash is real, and my body had reached its limit. My last thought before darkness claimed me was of dark eyes and gentle hands, and a voice that commanded armies but had said my name like a prayer. Tomorrow, everything would change. I just didn't know how much. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the disorienting realization that last night hadn't been a nightmare. The ocean glittered beyond the glass, deceptively peaceful. Seagulls circled in a sky so blue it hurt to look at. Everything was beautiful and pristine and wrong. I was still a prisoner. I sat up, my body aching in places I didn't know could ache. The cuts on my feet throbbed. My shoulders were stiff from the tension of running, fighting, surviving. I touched my hair, a disaster of tangles and frizz. My edges were completely ruined. A knock at the door made me jump. "Miss Okafor?" So-yeon's voice, crisp and professional. "Breakfast is ready. Mr. Choi requests your presence." Requests. Right, like I had a choice. "Give me 10 minutes, I called back. I found clothes in the closet, designer labels, all my size, from jeans to dresses to athletic wear. Dez had been thorough. It should have creeped me out. Instead, I felt something uncomfortably close to being cared for. I pushed that thought away and dressed quickly. Black jeans, a soft gray sweater, socks to hide the bandages on my feet. I pulled my hair into a high bun, washed my face, and tried to look like a woman who wasn't completely out of her depth. Failed spectacularly. So-yeon led me through the fortress. In daylight, it was even more impressive. All clean lines and expensive materials, art that probably belonged in museums. We passed a gym, a library, what looked like a surveillance room with screens covering an entire wall. This wasn't just a home, it was a command center. We emerged onto a terrace overlooking the ocean. A table was set with fresh fruit, pastries, coffee, traditional Korean breakfast dishes. And sitting at the head of the table, reading something on a tablet, was Dez. He'd changed from last night's blood-splattered suit into dark slacks, and a white button-down rolled to his elbows. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd just showered. Without the formal wear, he looked younger. Mid-30s, maybe. Devastatingly handsome in that way that should be illegal. He looked up as I approached, and those dark eyes swept over me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "You slept well?" he asked in English, gesturing to the chair beside him. "As well as can be expected in a locked room." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "For your protection. Or to keep me from running." "That too." He didn't apologize, just acknowledged it with that brutal honesty of his. "Sit, eat. We have much to discuss." I sat, if only because my legs were still shaky. So-yeon poured coffee, perfect temperature, with cream exactly how I liked it. The observation skills in this place were terrifying. "I've been thinking," I started, wrapping my hands around the warm cup. "I should leave Korea, go back to Nigeria, or maybe somewhere else. Disappear." "No." Just that. One word. Final. "Excuse me?" Dez set down his tablet and turned to face me fully. "Valentina Ricci has connections on 4 continents, the Italian families, the Russian Bratva, triad networks in China. If she wants you dead, geography won't save you." "So what? I'm just trapped here?" "You're safe here. There's a difference." "Safe or imprisoned?" "Both." He leaned back, studying me with those calculating eyes. "Let me explain your situation, Imani. Last night, you became a loose end in a very dangerous game. Valentina was planning to kill me, marry my corpse's reputation to legitimize her pregnancy, and take control of both the Korean and Italian territories in Incheon. You ruined that plan." My coffee suddenly tasted bitter. "Her pregnancy?" "She's carrying my cousin Raphael's child. He's my half-brother, technically. Same father, different mothers. I had him exiled 5 years ago for embezzling from family accounts. Valentina's been his lover for over a year. The betrayal was massive. operatic in scale. And the marriage was political. The Ricci family needed our distribution networks. We needed their European connections. It should have been mutually beneficial. His jaw tightened. Instead, they decided to take everything. I processed this, my mind racing. So where does that leave me? As the woman who saved my life and signed her own death warrant in the process. The brutal honesty was almost refreshing. No pretty lies. No false comfort. Your father, Dez continued, pulling out his phone. He showed me a screen, medical records, billing statements. Daniel Okafor, dialysis 3 times weekly at Seoul National University Hospital, 89 million, one in debt. My blood ran cold. How do you... I bought the debt yesterday, before we even left the restaurant. He set the phone down between us like a weapon. Now I own it. Rage and terror warred in my chest. You're blackmailing me? I'm offering you a deal. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. Help me survive the next 10 days. Valentina and Raphael are still planning their move. The wedding is in 10 days. All the major families will be there. It's not a celebration. It's a coronation. If they consolidate power at that event, I'm finished. What could I possibly do? You're invisible to them. Just a waitress who got caught in the crossfire. They don't know you're here, don't know you're helping me. You can go places my people can't. Hear things they won't say in front of known associates. You want me to spy for you. I want you to survive. This benefits both of us. I wanted to throw my coffee in his perfect face, wanted to scream at the injustice of it all. Instead, I asked, and my father? If you help me, I'll cancel the debt, transfer enough money to cover his care for the rest of his life. New apartment, private nurses, everything he needs. He paused. And I'll make sure Valentina's people never find him. It was a golden cage and a death threat wrapped in one offer. Help him, or watch my father die. You're a monster, I whispered. Something flickered across his face, not quite hurt, but close. Yes, but I'm the monster who's keeping you alive. He stood, buttoning his sleeve cuffs with precise movements. Think about it. You have until tonight to decide, so Jan will show you around. The compound is yours to explore. Just don't try to leave. My men have orders to stop you. For my protection, I said bitterly. Yes. He started to walk away, then paused. For what it's worth, Imani, I'm sorry you were pulled into this, but I won't apologize for doing whatever it takes to survive. In my world, hesitation is death. He left me alone on the terrace with expensive food I couldn't taste and impossible choices I couldn't escape. I spent the morning exploring my prison. The gym was state-of-the-art. Weights, machines, a boxing ring that had clearly seen use. The library was extensive. Korean literature, philosophy, surprisingly, African authors. Chinua Achebe, Chimamanda Adichie, Yagyasi. I pulled out half of a yellow sun and found a note tucked inside the cover. In neat handwriting. Thought you might want something from home. D. He'd known I'd find this. Had left it for me like breadcrumbs, showing me he paid attention. That I was more than just a pawn. It was manipulative. Calculated. And despite myself, it worked. I found So-yeon in the surveillance room, watching a dozen screens showing different angles of the compound. Can I ask you something? I said from the doorway. She didn't look away from the screens. You want to know if you can trust him. Can I? Mr. Choi is many things. Dangerous, ruthless, capable of terrible violence. She finally turned to face me. But he doesn't lie. If he says he'll protect you, he will. If he says he'll cancel your father's debt, he will. His word is absolute. Even if I'm just a tool to him? We're all tools, Miss Okafor. The question is whether we're disposable or valued. She returned to her screens. He values you, I can tell. He doesn't bring people here unless they matter. I didn't know what to do with that information. That evening, I found Dez in the gym. He was shirtless, working a heavy bag with wrapped hands. Each punch was precise, controlled, devastating. His back was a canvas of scars and tattoos, a dragon wrapping around his ribs, Korean characters down his spine, marks from knives and bullets that should have killed him. He was beautiful in a brutal way, all lean muscle and contained violence. He sensed me watching and stopped, breathing hard but not winded. Sweat gleamed on his skin. "Have you decided?" he asked, unwrapping his hands. I stepped into the gym, my socked feet silent on the mats. "I want to see the debt cancellation in writing, and I want to talk to my father, proof he's safe." "Done. Anything else?" "Teach me." He raised an eyebrow. "Teach you what?" "To fight. To survive. If I'm going into danger for you, I'm not going in helpless." Something like respect flickered in his eyes. He grabbed a towel, wiped his face. "Most people in your position would run or hide. You want to learn to fight back. You said hesitation is death in your world. Then teach me not to hesitate." He studied me for a long moment, and I forced myself not to look away, not to show weakness. Finally, he nodded. "Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., wear something you can move in." He walked past me, close enough that I felt the heat radiating from his skin. "And Imani? Once we start this, there's no going back. You'll learn things about yourself you might not like." "I already learned that last night when I watched you kill 3 men without blinking." He stopped in the doorway, looked back over his shoulder. "I killed 5, actually. You just didn't see the other 2. A pause. "Get some rest. Tomorrow, your real education begins." He left me alone in the gym, my heart pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. The next morning, I met him at 6 a.m. sharp. He was already in the gym, dressed in black training gear, looking unfairly alert for such an early hour. "First lesson," he said without preamble. "Fighting isn't about strength. It's about knowing where to hit, when to hit, and being willing to do whatever it takes. Can you do that?" "I don't know. Honest. Good." He gestured for me to approach. "Come at me." "What?" "Try to hit me. Don't hold back." I hesitated, then threw a clumsy punch. He caught my wrist effortlessly, twisted, and suddenly I was on the mat with his knee pressed lightly against my chest. "Lesson 1, he said, not even breathing hard. "Telegraphing. You wound up, showed me exactly what you were going to do. In a real fight, you'd be dead. Again." We went again, and again and again. Each time, he put me on the mat with embarrassing ease, but each time, he also taught me something. How to move my feet, how to guard my center, how to use my opponent's momentum against them. Hours passed. My body screamed. Sweat soaked through my clothes, but I kept getting up. "Why?" he asked during a water break, watching me with curiosity. "You could have said no to all of this." "Because you were right," I admitted, wiping sweat from my face. "I don't want to be helpless. I don't want to be someone things happen to anymore. I want to be someone who makes things happen." Understanding passed between us. He knew that feeling, had probably felt it himself once, before he became the monster everyone feared. "Again," he said, and we continued. By the end of the week, I could actually land a hit occasionally. Nothing that would stop him, but enough to make him work for it. He taught me pressure points, how to escape holds, where to aim for maximum damage. Eyes, throat, groin, he recited during one session, his body pressed against mine as he showed me an escape technique. Those are your targets. You're smaller, lighter. You can't win on strength, but you can win on speed and ruthlessness. His breath was warm against my ear. We were too close, our bodies aligned in ways that made my pulse race. Like this, he murmured, guiding my hand to his throat. Feel that? The soft spot below the Adam's apple. Hit that hard enough, they can't breathe, can't chase you. My hand was on his throat, feeling his pulse under my fingers. Strong, steady, alive. Our eyes met. Something electric passed between us. Imani, he said quietly, and my name on his lips sounded like a prayer and a curse all at once. I should have stepped back, should have remembered he was a criminal, a killer, the man holding my father's life hostage. Instead, I stayed exactly where I was, my hand still on his throat, close enough to feel the heat of him. Is this part of the lesson? I whispered. No. His hand came up, fingers tracing my jawline with surprising gentleness. This is me making a mistake. Then stop. I can't. He kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, consuming. Months of tension exploding in a moment. His hand tangled in my hair, pulling my head back, and I gasped against his mouth. He took advantage, deepening the kiss, and I met him with equal intensity. This was insane, wrong, dangerous. I didn't care. My hands found the hem of his shirt, slid underneath to feel the hard muscle and raised scars. He groaned against my mouth, walking me backward until my back hit the wall. Tell me to stop. He breathed against my lips. No. His control snapped. He lifted me easily, my legs wrapping around his waist, and kissed me like a drowning man finding air. I'd never been kissed like this, like I was necessary, essential, the only thing that mattered in the world. His lips moved to my throat, and I arched into him, gasping. Dez! Say my name again. Dez. He made a sound that was almost a growl, carrying me across the gym. We barely made it to the bench before his mouth found mine again, urgent and claiming. Somewhere in the rational part of my brain, I knew this was a terrible idea. Stockholm Syndrome, power dynamics, impossible situations. But his hands were reverent as they explored, his kisses alternating between devastating and tender, and I was so tired of being afraid, tired of being helpless. With him, I felt powerful, alive. We should stop, I managed between kisses. Do you want to? No. Then don't. So I didn't. We crossed every line, broke every rule, and I regretted nothing. Afterward, we lay tangled together on the gym mat, our breathing gradually slowing. His fingers traced idle patterns on my shoulder. This was a mistake, he said quietly. I stiffened, starting to pull away, but he tightened his arm around me. Not because I didn't want it, he continued, but because now I have something to lose. And in my world, that's a weakness people exploit. I propped myself up on one elbow to look at him. Is that what I am to you? A weakness? You're everything I shouldn't want and exactly what I need. He touched my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone. You make me want to be better than I am, and I don't know if that's possible. Maybe you don't have to be better. Maybe you just have to be honest. I am being honest. You terrify me, Imani Okafor, because for the first time in my life, I care if someone walks away. My heart cracked open. This brutal, dangerous man was being vulnerable, and it was more devastating than any weapon. I kissed him, soft and slow. I'm not walking away. You should. Probably, but I'm not. I traced the scar above his eyebrow. Tell me how you got this. Raphael, years ago, before I exiled him, we fought over family business. He came at me with a broken bottle. And you let him live? He's family. That meant something once. His jaw tightened. It won't stop me from killing him now if he threatens what's mine. Is that what I am? Yours? Do you want to be? It was a genuine question. Not a command, not a demand, a choice. Yes, I whispered, and knew I was sealing my fate. But not as a possession, as an equal. Deal. He pulled me down for another kiss, and I melted into him. We spent the rest of the day in his private quarters. Between stolen kisses and tangled sheets, he showed me the evidence he'd compiled on Valentina and Raphael. Bank records, surveillance photos, recorded conversations, building his case for the Council of Families. The wedding is in 3 days, he said, showing me blueprints of the Villa Ricci estate. All the major families will attend. It's supposed to be a union of power. Instead, it'll be a reckoning. What do you need me to do? He explained the plan. I would go in as replacement catering staff. One of his plants would conveniently fall ill. I'd wear devices to plant surveillance equipment, gather final evidence, and signal when Valentina and Raphael were positioned. It's dangerous, he admitted. If they recognize you, they won't. I'm good at being invisible, remember? Not to me. Not anymore. If you're loving this story, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me what you think of Dez and Imani's relationship. And make sure you're subscribed because the next part is going to blow your mind. That night, we stood on his terrace overlooking the ocean. The city glittered in the distance, beautiful and corrupt and deadly. After this is over, I said, what happens to us? I don't know. I've never planned past survival before. Then let's survive first, plan later. He pulled me against him, chin resting on top of my head. You should hate me. I've trapped you, manipulated you, dragged you into my war. I should, I agreed, but I don't. Maybe that makes me crazy. Or maybe it makes you perfect for this world. Is that what I'm becoming? Part of your world. You became part of it the moment you wrote that warning. Everything after has just been you accepting what you already are. I didn't know if that was true, didn't know if I was becoming someone new or just discovering who I'd always been underneath the good girl exterior. But standing there in his arms, the ocean roaring below and danger looming ahead, I felt more alive than I ever had serving wine to people who never saw me. 3 days, I said. 3 days, he confirmed. Then we either win or we die trying. Then let's make sure we win. He turned me to face him, cupped my face in both hands. Promise me something. What? If it goes wrong, if I tell you to run, you don't look back. Dez, promise me, Imani. I saw the fear in his eyes. Real fear. Not for himself, but for me. I promise, I lied, because I'd already decided we were surviving this together or not at all. He kissed me under the stars, and I tasted desperation and hope, and something that might have been love if we'd had more time. 3 days until the wedding. 3 days until everything changed. I just didn't know yet how completely my world was about to shatter. 2 days before the wedding, Dez gave me a dress. Not just any dress, a masterpiece of deception. Black silk with a high neck and long sleeves, elegant enough for high society catering staff at an elite event. But hidden beneath the flowing fabric was something else entirely. Ballistic weave, Dez explained, running his fingers along the inner lining. Won't stop a direct shot, but it'll slow bullets enough to give you a chance. The fabric is reinforced at vital points: chest, back, abdomen. We were in his study. The blueprints of Villa Ricci spread across his desk like battle plans, which, I supposed, they were. I touched the dress, feeling the subtle weight of the protection woven into beauty. You thought of everything. I have to. His voice was tight. You're walking into a viper's nest for me. For us, I corrected, meeting his eyes. I'm doing this for both of us now. Something vulnerable flickered across his face. He pulled out a small box, opened it to reveal a jade necklace. Simple, elegant, understated. This isn't just jewelry, he said, lifting it from the velvet. Hidden camera in the pendant, microphone in the clasp. Tejo can monitor everything you see and hear. We'll know the moment something goes wrong. He moved behind me, fastening it around my neck. His fingers brushed my skin, and I shivered despite myself. In the mirror across the room, we looked like something from a different life. A man helping his lover with jewelry before an elegant evening out. Not a crime lord preparing his asset for infiltration. There's one more thing, he said, producing a delicate hairpin. Silver, decorated with a tiny lotus flower. Press here. He indicated a nearly invisible seam, and a blade extends. Small, but sharp enough to cut through zip ties or kill someone if I have to, I finished. Yes. He turned me to face him, hands on my shoulders. I need you to understand something, Imani. If it comes down to your life or someone else's, you choose yours. Always. No hesitation. No mercy. I don't know if I can. You can. His grip tightened slightly. Because the alternative is you dying while I listen through a microphone, unable to help you. And that's not acceptable. The raw emotion in his voice startled me. This wasn't the cold, calculating mob boss. This was a man terrified of losing something precious. I'll be careful, I promised. Careful isn't enough. Be ruthless. He pulled me against him, lips brushing my forehead. Come back to me. I will. We stood like that for a long moment, holding each other like the world was ending. Maybe it was. That night, sleep was impossible. I lay in Dez's bed, our bed now, after these stolen days together, watching the moonlight paint patterns on the ceiling. He was beside me, one arm draped possessively across my waist, even in sleep. I studied his face in the darkness. Younger in sleep, less guarded. The scar above his eyebrows stood out pale against his skin. I traced it gently, thinking about Raphael, about family betrayal, about all the scars we couldn't see. His eyes opened, catching me watching him. Can't sleep, he murmured, voice rough. Too much thinking. Dangerous habit. He pulled me closer, nuzzling into my neck. What are you thinking about? Tomorrow, the wedding. What happens after? After, you're free. I'll cancel your father's debt as promised. Set you up anywhere you want to go. New identity if you need it. I pulled back to look at him. Is that what you want? For me to leave? I want you safe. Everything else is secondary. That's not an answer. He was quiet for a long moment, fingers tracing idle patterns on my hip. What I want is impossible. I want you here, with me, building something that isn't soaked in blood. But I don't know how to do that. This life, it's all I know. Violence and power and surviving by any means necessary. Then learn something new. With you? If you want. He kissed me then, slow and deep and achingly tender. I want everything with you. That's the problem. I want things I have no right to want. Maybe rights don't matter. Maybe wanting is enough. Not in my world. Then change your world. He laughed softly against my lips. You make it sound simple. It is simple, just not easy. We made love like it was the last time, every touch desperate and reverent. Afterward, tangled together in sweat-dampened sheets, he held me like I was the only thing keeping him anchored to humanity. Whatever happens tomorrow, I whispered into the darkness, I don't regret any of this. His arms tightened around me. Even the parts where I was a bastard, especially those parts, they led us here. You're too good for this life, Imani. Maybe, or maybe I'm exactly what this life needs. He had no answer for that, just held me tighter, and eventually we both fell into restless sleep. The day of the wedding arrived with deceptive sunshine, beautiful weather for a bloodbath. So, Jan helped me prepare, her movements efficient and precise. She pinned my hair in an elegant style that hid the lotus hairpin perfectly, applied subtle makeup that changed my features just enough. Sharper cheekbones, different eye shape. I looked like myself, but not quite. Like a shadow of Imani Okafor. You'll do fine, she said, adjusting the jade necklace. Remember, you're invisible. Just another staff member. They won't see you. And if they do, then you use what Mr. Choi taught you and you fight your way out. She met my eyes in the mirror. Don't die for him. He wouldn't forgive himself. I'm not planning to die at all. Good. I'm starting to like you. Would be inconvenient if you got killed. It was the closest thing to approval I'd gotten from her. I'd take it. Dez was waiting in the garage, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than a car. He looked devastating, every inch the powerful crime lord about to crash his own engagement party. Ready? He asked. No, but let's do it anyway. He cupped my face, kissed me hard enough to bruise. Stay smart, stay safe. And Imani? Yeah? I love you. The words hung in the air between us, impossible and perfect and terrifying. You pick now to tell me that? I managed through the emotion clogging my throat. Had to say it before, just in case. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. You don't have to say it back. I know this is complicated and insane, and I kissed him, cutting off his rambling. I love you too, you idiot. Now let's go survive this so we can be complicated and insane together. His smile was brilliant and heartbreaking. Deal. We took separate cars. Mine, an unmarked van with the catering company's logo, arrived at Villa Ricci with the other staff. Dez would come later, through the front entrance, bold as brass. The estate was stunning. Traditional Korean architecture blended with Italian Renaissance. Curved roof lines and marble columns, ancient and modern wealth colliding. Gardens sprawled across acres, currently being set up with white chairs and floral arrangements. Security was everywhere. Men in suits with earpieces trying to look decorative and failing. I counted at least 20 visible guards. God knew how many were hidden. Names? A guard barked at our van driver in Korean. The driver rattled off the names on the approved list. My fake ID was flawless. Dez's forger was excellent. The guard waved us through. We parked in the service area and filed into the kitchen. It was chaos. Chefs screaming in multiple languages, staff rushing with trays and ingredients, steam and heat and barely controlled panic. Perfect. Chaos was cover. I grabbed an apron and fell into the rhythm. Arranging appetizers, pouring champagne into hundreds of crystal flutes, playing my part. You, with the champagne. The head server snapped at me in Korean. Take these to the bridal suite. The bride wants them now. My heart stopped. The bridal suite, where Valentina was. Yes, ma'am, I said, keeping my voice even, accent flawless. I loaded a tray with champagne flutes and headed upstairs, every nerve screaming. The jade, Necklace felt heavy against my skin. Dez and his team watching through the camera, listening to every word. I could do this. I was invisible. Just another servant. The bridal suite was on the 3rd floor, guarded by 2 men. They barely glanced at me as I knocked. "Come in," a voice called. Female, sharp, Italian accent. I pushed open the door with my shoulder, eyes down, submissive. The room was stunning, all white silk and fresh flowers, and in the center, being dressed by attendants, was Valentina Ricci. She was beautiful, objectively, devastatingly beautiful. Dark hair piled in an elaborate style, makeup perfect, wearing a wedding gown that probably cost 6 figures, and visibly pregnant, 5 months at least, the bump prominent beneath the flowing white silk. "Finally," she said in Italian to her attendants, "I'm dying of thirst." Then switching to Korean for my benefit, "Just set it on the table." I did, hands steady despite my racing heart. Arranged the glasses precisely, added napkins, played the part. "Wait," Valentina said suddenly. I froze. "Come here, let me look at you." I approached slowly, eyes still down, heart hammering so hard I was sure she could hear it. She studied me, head tilted. "Have we met before?" "No, ma'am. This is my first event at the estate." "You look familiar." Her eyes narrowed. "What's your name?" "Minji, ma'am." The fake name tasted like ash. Long, terrible seconds passed. Then she waved a dismissive hand. "Pour me a glass, then get out." I poured with steady hands, offered it to her with a slight bow. She took it without thanks, already turning back to her mirror. I escaped into the hallway, forcing myself to walk normally. Not run, not shake, just another servant completing her tasks. Once I was safely in a service stairwell, I pressed against the wall and let out a shaking breath. "That was too close." Dez's voice came through my earpiece, tight with controlled fury. "She almost recognized you." "But she didn't," I whispered back. "I'm fine. Where do you need me next?" "Plant the first device in the study. 3rd floor, east wing. Raphael will be using it as his staging area." I moved through the estate like a ghost, using servant corridors and back stairs. The device was disguised as a pen. I left it on Raphael's desk among other office supplies. Natural, unnoticeable. "Device 1 planted," I murmured. "Good. 2 more to go, then get back to the kitchen and wait for my signal." The second device went in the main hall, where the ceremony would take place, hidden in a floral arrangement. The third in the dining room, where the reception would be held, tucked behind a decorative vase. By the time I finished, guests were arriving. The ceremony was starting in an hour. I made it back to the kitchen and fell into serving duties, carrying trays, refilling glasses. Invisible again. Through the Jade Necklace's camera, Dez and his team monitored everything. I could feel their presence, ghostly and reassuring. I wasn't alone. The ceremony began at 6 p.m. sharp. I watched from the servants' entrance as guests filed into the garden. Hundreds of them, representing every major criminal family in Korea and half of Italy. This wasn't a wedding. It was a summit. And there, walking down the aisle to traditional music, was Valentina, radiant and triumphant, and carrying her lover's child while pretending it belonged to her dead fiancé-to-be. The plan had been perfect. Dez was supposed to die during dessert service at Lotus Crown. The families would mourn. Valentina would play the grieving widow. Her child would be the heir to both empires, and Raphael would emerge from exile as her loyal protector. Instead, Dez was alive, and he was about to crash this party. "He's here!" Taiho's voice came through my earpiece. "Boss just entered the grounds. This is it." My heart rate spiked. "What do I do?" "Stay near the exits. Be ready to move when things go sideways. When, not if. Definitely when. The ceremony proceeded. Valentina and her stand-in groom, some cousin playing the part since Dez was indisposed, exchanged vows. The officiant droned in Korean and Italian. Everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. Forgive the interruption. The voice rang out across the garden, amplified and commanding. Dez's voice, every head turned. And there he was, walking through the garden like an avenging angel. Black suit, white shirt, no tie, flanked by Marcus and Soyeon and a dozen of his best people. Not hiding, not sneaking, announcing himself like a king. Don't go anywhere. Drop a like right now and leave a comment telling me what you think is about to happen, because this next part is insane. Valentina's face went white, then red, then twisted with rage. Before we celebrate this union, Dez continued in Korean, then Italian, making sure everyone understood. Shouldn't we acknowledge the truth? Security moved toward him, but several of the council members raised hands, stopping them. This was too interesting. They wanted to see where it went. Dez gestured, and the screens positioned around the garden, meant for displaying romantic photos, flickered to life. Medical records appeared. Hospital bills, ultrasound images with dates. Valentina Ricci is 5 months pregnant, Dez announced, which is interesting, considering our engagement was only 4 months ago. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Valentina's face was frozen in fury. But that's not all, Dez continued. The father isn't me. It's my dear half-brother, Rafael Torres, who, as many of you know, I exiled 5 years ago for embezzlement. The screens changed. Hotel surveillance footage, Valentina and Rafael together, kissing, clearly intimate. Bank records showing Rafael's theft, millions moved to offshore accounts, and finally, audio. Valentina's voice, crystal clear. Durante il dolce, finestra est, fallo sembrare i russi. The same words I'd heard in the wine cellar. The order to kill Dez. The garden exploded into chaos, council members surging to their feet, security unsure where to point their weapons, Valentina screaming in Italian. And through the crowd, I saw him, Rafael Torres. He looked like a darker version of Dez, same bone structure, but cruel, where Dez was controlled, handsome in a way that felt dangerous. He was staring at Dez with naked hatred. You should have died that night, Rafael shouted in Korean. This was supposed to be over. But I didn't, thanks to someone who warned me. Dez's eyes scanned the crowd, found mine for just a second. Someone you underestimated. Rafael followed his gaze, saw me, and his expression shifted to recognition. The waitress, he said slowly. From Lotus Crown, you were there. You warned him. Every eye in the garden turned to me. So much for being invisible. Seize her, Valentina screamed. She's working with him. Guards moved toward me. I dropped my tray and ran. The kitchen was chaos, staff scattering, trying to avoid the violence spilling in from the garden. I shoved through them, heading for the service exit. A hand grabbed my arm. I spun, the lotus hairpin already in my hand, blade extended. The guard saw it too late. I slashed across his forearm, not deep, but enough to make him release me with a curse. Sorry, I gasped, already running. Dez's training kicked in. Don't think. Move, eyes, throat, groin. Stay fast. Stay ruthless. I burst into a hallway, 2 more guards. I grabbed a serving tray from a side table, swung it like a weapon. It connected with one guard's head with a satisfying crack. The other drew his gun. I was dead. This was it. A shot rang out, but I was still standing. The guard crumpled. Soyeon emerged from a doorway, gun smoking. Move, princess. We need to get you out of here. Dez is fine. He can handle himself. You're my priority." We ran through the villa. Behind us, gunfire erupted. The careful veneer of civilization had shattered. This was what Dez's world really looked like. Violence barely contained, always ready to explode. We made it to a side entrance when someone stepped out in front of us. Valentina. Pregnant, in her wedding gown, holding a gun with both hands. "You ruined everything," she hissed at me. Her Italian accent was thick with rage. "You stupid, insignificant little—" Soyan raised her weapon. "Step aside, Mrs. Ricci." "Or what? You'll shoot a pregnant woman at her own wedding?" Valentina laughed, unhinged. "The council would crucify Dez for that." "I'm not Dez's people," I said quietly. I moved before she could process it, grabbed her wrist, twisted like Dez had, taught me. The gun clattered to the floor. We grappled, awkward and desperate. She was pregnant but furious, fighting with the strength of desperation. We crashed through a door into a side room, some kind of parlor. Expensive furniture, art on the walls. We destroyed it all, knocking over tables, shattering vases. She got her hands around my throat. I slammed my elbow into her ribs. She gasped but didn't let go. Black spots danced in my vision. This was it. I was going to die in a wedding venue in a borrowed dress, killed by a pregnant Mafia princess. The lotus hairpin was still in my hand. I drove it up into her shoulder. Not fatal, not the baby, but enough. She screamed and released me. I shoved her away, gasping for air. She fell against a table, clutching her shoulder, blood seeping through white silk. "You're nothing," she spat. "A nobody. You think Dez actually cares about you? You're a tool, a means to an end." "Maybe," I said, my voice raw, "but I'm the tool that took you down." Soyan appeared in the doorway. "We need to go, now." I grabbed Valentina's gun from where it had fallen and followed Soyan. Behind us, Valentina screamed threats in Italian. We burst out into the gardens. It was carnage. Families choosing sides, gunfire, bodies. The wedding had become a war zone. I saw Dez across the chaos. He was fighting Raphael, both of them bloody, both beyond reason. This wasn't strategy anymore. This was personal. Years of betrayal and resentment exploding in violence. Raphael had a knife. Dez blocked, twisted, drove his elbow into Raphael's face. Blood sprayed. Raphael staggered but came back swinging. "Get to the car!" Soyan shouted at me, pushing me toward the service gate. "Not without Dez. He'll be right behind us. Go." Marcus appeared, massive and efficient, cutting down anyone who got too close. Together, the three of us fought toward the vehicles. A hand grabbed my hair from behind. I spun, bringing Valentina's gun up on instinct. The man, one of Raphael's soldiers, froze. "Let go," I said, "or I shoot." He let go. I kept the gun trained on him as I backed away. "You've learned well," Soyan said with something like pride. We reached the cars. The van I'd arrived in was gone, but Dez's Genesis was there, Marcus already behind the wheel. "Where is he?" I demanded, scanning the chaos. "Where's Dez?" "There." Soyan pointed. Dez was walking toward us, supporting himself on Marcus's shoulder. Blood soaked his shirt. Raphael was on the ground behind him, not moving. "Is he—" I started. "Alive. Barely. I'm not a kinslayer, even if he is." Dez's voice was strained with pain. "Get in the car." We piled in. Marcus floored it, tires screaming as we shot through the gate. Behind us, the villa was chaos. Sirens, gunfire, families scattering. In the back seat, I pressed my hands against the wound in Dez's side, trying to stop the bleeding. "You came back," he said, looking at me with hazy eyes. "I told you to run." "I lied about that promise." He laughed, then winced. Of course you did. Stay with me, I ordered, my hands slick with his blood. You told me you loved me this morning. You don't get to die on me now. Trying not to. His hand covered mine, warm and solid despite everything. Did we win? I don't know, did we? Still alive, so yes. His eyes started to close. Dez, stay awake. Tired, Imani. So tired. I know, baby, but stay with me, please. So-Yan was already on the phone, arranging medical care. Marcus drove like a demon, weaving through traffic. I held Dez against me, feeling his blood soak into my dress, and prayed to every god I'd ever heard of that we hadn't survived this much just to lose each other now. Love you, he mumbled against my shoulder. Love you too. So you better not die, because I have a lot more to say to you. Make me a list. I will. A very long list. Can't wait to hear it. His eyes closed and I felt his body go slack. No, Dez. He's still breathing, So-Yan assured me. Pulse is steady. He's just unconscious. Dez is too stubborn to die from something as simple as a stab wound. I held him tighter, watching the city lights blur past, and chose to believe her. We'd survived the wedding, but the real battle, for our future, for our lives, for whatever this thing between us could become, was just beginning. The safe house was a nondescript apartment in Buchan, nothing like the fortress. Small, functional, forgettable. Exactly what we needed while Dez's personal doctor worked to save his life. Dr. Kim was efficient and discreet, the kind of medical professional who asked no questions and left no records. She worked on Dez's stab wound in the tiny bedroom while I paced the living room, his blood still drying on my hands and dress. Sit down before you wear a hole in the floor, So-Yan said from her position by the window, watching the street below. I can't. My voice cracked. If he dies? He won't. I told you, Dez is too stubborn. But even she looked worried. Marcus was making calls in Korean, coordinating with the rest of Dez's people. From what I could understand, the fallout from the wedding was massive. The council was in emergency session. Valentina had been taken into custody by her own family. Disgraced, wounded, her power shattered. Raphael was in critical condition at a private hospital, under guard. And Dez's reputation had somehow emerged stronger. The man who'd survived betrayal, who'd exposed corruption at his own engagement party, who'd fought his way out against impossible odds. In the criminal underworld, that kind of thing earned respect. Dr. Kim emerged 2 hours later, snapping off bloody gloves. He'll live. The blade missed anything vital. He lost blood, but he's stable. He needs rest, antibiotics, and no strenuous activity for at least 2 weeks. Can I see him? I asked immediately. She nodded. He's asking for you anyway. Wouldn't let me sedate him until he knew you were safe. I pushed past her into the bedroom. Dez was propped against pillows, shirtless, bandages wrapped around his torso. He looked pale and exhausted and absolutely beautiful. There you are, he said softly. Thought you might have finally come to your senses and run. I crossed to him, careful not to jostle the bed. I told you I'm not going anywhere. Even after seeing what my world really looks like? The violence, the chaos? Especially after that. I took his hand, laced our fingers together. I'm not scared of your world anymore, Dez. I'm part of it now. You shouldn't be proud of that. Maybe not. But I'm proud of surviving it, of helping you survive it. I touched his face gently. How are you feeling? Like I got stabbed by my psychotic half-brother. So, about average for a Tuesday. He tried to smile but winced. Did we get everything? The evidence? The recordings? Tejo confirmed it all went through. The council has everything. Valentina's orders, Raphael's embezzlement, The fake pregnancy timeline, they can't ignore it. Good. His thumb traced circles on my palm. What about you? Are you hurt? Just bruises? Nothing serious? You fought Valentina. How did you... So Jan told me. Said you handled yourself well. Pride filled his voice. Knew you would. Your training helped. Everything you taught me. You had it in you already. I just gave you permission to use it. He tugged me closer. Come here, carefully. I climbed onto the bed beside him, fitting myself against his uninjured side. He wrapped his arm around me, and we stayed like that, breathing together, alive together. I love you, he murmured into my hair, in case that wasn't clear from the multiple near-death experiences. I laughed wetly. It was pretty clear. I love you too, even though you're an arrogant, controlling crime lord with a god complex. Only with you. Everyone else I'm perfectly reasonable with. Liar. Fine. I'm terrible with everyone. You just make me want to be slightly less terrible. I tilted my head up to kiss him, soft and careful. I'll take it. We stayed in the safe house for 3 days while Dez healed and the political situation settled. The council ruled in his favor, unanimously. Valentina was stripped of her position and exiled. Raphael would stand trial before the families for embezzlement and attempted murder. The Ricci family offered formal apologies and reparations. Dez's position was now stronger than ever. He'd proven himself loyal to family, law, honest about betrayal, and willing to fight for what was his. On the 4th day, we returned to the fortress. It felt different now, less like a prison, more like a home. My home, if I chose to claim it. That evening, I found Dez on the terrace overlooking the ocean, the same place we'd stood before the wedding. He was healing well, moving with only slight stiffness now. Penny for your thoughts? I asked, joining him at the railing. Thinking about the future, something I haven't done in years. And what does your future look like? He turned to face me fully, taking both my hands in his. That depends on you. My heart skipped. On me? I kept my promise. Your father's debt is canceled. He's in a new apartment in Seoul with full-time care. I've set up accounts that will cover his medical expenses for life. He paused. You're free, Imani. Free to go anywhere, be anyone. I'll provide whatever resources you need. New identity, relocation, protection, whatever you want. And if what I want is to stay, then I need you to understand what that means. His expression was serious, almost stern. This life doesn't get easier. There will always be another threat, another rival, another war. I can give you luxury, protection, power, but I can't give you safety. Not really. Not in this world. I know. Do you? Because once you choose this, choose me, there's no going back to normal. You'll be marked, associated with me. That makes you a target. I've been a target since the wine cellar. That ship has sailed. Imani, I pressed my fingers to his lips, silencing him. Let me speak. You gave me a choice at the beginning. Help you or lose my father. That wasn't really a choice, but I'm making one now, freely. I choose you, this life, this world, all of it. Not because I have to, because I want to. Why? His voice was raw. Why would you choose this? Because for the first time in my life, I feel powerful. I matter. I'm not invisible anymore. I cupped his face. And because I love you. Not despite what you are, but including it. You're dangerous and ruthless and morally complicated, and I love every part of you. He pulled me against him, careful of his healing wound. You're insane. This is insane. Probably. But we've established I'm good at insane. He laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest into mine. What do you want, Imani Okafor? If you could have anything? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I want to be your partner, not your possession, not your protected pet, your equal. I want to learn this world inside and out. I want to help you build something better than what came before. Better how? Less betrayal, more loyalty. You said you don't like bullies. Let's make sure the people under your protection are actually protected. Use this power for something other than just accumulating more power. He studied me with those intense dark eyes. You want to reform a crime syndicate? I want to make it mean something. You have all this influence, all these resources. What if we use them for more than just survival? That's naive. Maybe. Or maybe it's exactly what this world needs. Someone naive enough to think things can change. I held his gaze. What do you think? Can you work with that? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Genuine, warm, devastating. I think you're going to turn my entire world upside down. Is that a yes? That's a hell yes. He kissed me, deep and claiming. Partners, then? Equals. You and me against the world. You and me against the world, I agreed. Before we get to the ending, make sure you've hit that subscribe button and dropped a like on this video. Comment below and tell me what you want to see next. Your support means everything. 2 weeks later, Dez called a meeting of his inner circle. Marcus, So-yeon, Tae-ho, and a dozen others who'd proven their loyalty. We gathered in the fortress's conference room, all steel and glass overlooking the ocean. And I was there at Dez's right hand, not as decoration, as his second. Things are changing, Dez announced in Korean, then English for my benefit. The old ways, constant war, endless betrayal, they're not sustainable. We need something new. So-yeon looked skeptical. With respect, boss, the families have operated this way for generations. And look where it got us. Valentina and Raphael nearly destroyed everything because they chose ambition over loyalty. He glanced at me. Someone recently reminded me that power without purpose is just violence. So, we're going to find a purpose. I stood, pulling up a presentation Tae-ho had helped me prepare. We control shipping, distribution, and half the businesses in Incheon. That's leverage. We can use it to protect people instead of just extracting from them. Fair wages for workers, protection that actually means something, using our influence to push out the worst actors, traffickers, the ones who prey on kids. You want to be criminal philanthropists? Marcus asked, amused. I want us to be smarter, Dez said. Violence should be last resort, not first option. Loyalty should be earned through respect, not fear. We build something that lasts because people want to be part of it, not because they're afraid to leave. The room was silent. This was radical, dangerous, everything the criminal underworld wasn't. It'll make us look weak, one lieutenant said. It'll make us look strong, I countered. Strong enough not to need constant violence. The families that last are the ones that adapt. So-yeon smiled slowly. I like it. We'll need to be careful in implementation, but I like it. One by one, the others agreed. Maybe because they believed in the vision. Maybe because they believed in Dez. Maybe because they'd seen us survive the impossible and figured we knew what we were doing. Regardless, it was decided. We were building something new. After the meeting, Dez found me in the library. I was reading, feet tucked under me, comfortable in his space in a way that would have seemed impossible weeks ago. You were brilliant in there, he said, settling beside me on the couch. I was terrified. Did you see Marcus's face when I suggested fair wages? He came around, they all did, because you made it make sense. He pulled me against him. You're good at this. The strategy, the planning, reading people. You're wasted as a waitress. Former waitress, I think I've moved on from that career path. Indeed. He was quiet for a moment. I have something for you. He produced a small box. Not a ring box, something else. Inside was a key card and legal documents. What's this? I asked. The deed to the orchid room. I'm transferring ownership to you. I stared at him. You're giving me the restaurant? Where we met, where you saved my life, seemed appropriate. He smiled. You can do whatever you want with it. Keep it running, change the name, burn it down. It's yours. Tears pricked my eyes. Dez, this is too much. It's not nearly enough, but it's a start. He brushed a tear from my cheek. You're not trapped anymore, Imani. You have your own assets, your own power. If you ever want to leave, I won't. But if you do, you can. That matters to me. That you're choosing this every day, not because you're trapped, but because you want to. I kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it. I choose you. Every day. Every time. Even when I'm being an arrogant, controlling crime lord with a god complex. Especially then. We made love there in the library, slow and tender, learning each other all over again now that survival wasn't the only thing driving us. This was different. Choosing pleasure, choosing intimacy, choosing each other with clear eyes and open hearts. Afterward, wrapped in blankets on the couch, watching the sunset paint the ocean gold and pink, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. What are you thinking? Dez murmured, fingers tracing patterns on my shoulder. That I'm happy. That's strange, right? Given everything? Maybe. Or maybe it means we're exactly where we're supposed to be. In a crime lord's fortress, planning to reform the underworld one fair wage at a time? Exactly that. I laughed, and it felt free. My father's going to have so many questions when I finally visit him. Tell him you went into import-export. That's technically not a lie. I'm very good at technically not lying. I've noticed. A comfortable silence fell. Then Dez said quietly, Thank you. For what? For seeing me. Not just the monster, not just the power, me. I turned in his arms to face him. Thank you for letting me see, for trusting me with the real you. I'd trust you with anything. He kissed my forehead. My life, my empire, my heart, all of it. That's a lot of responsibility. Think you can handle it? I thought about the girl I'd been 6 weeks ago, invisible, powerless, surviving on the edges of other people's lives. I thought about who I'd become. Strong, capable, a woman who'd fought and survived and chosen her own path. Yeah, I said, smiling against his skin. I think I can handle it. 3 months later, I stood on the terrace of the newly renovated orchid room. We'd kept the name but changed everything else. Better wages for staff, security that actually protected people, a zero-tolerance policy for harassment. It was packed every night, not just because of the food or the location, because word had spread that this was a place where people were treated well, where respect mattered. Dez joined me, slipping an arm around my waist. Proud of you. This place is incredible. We did it together. You did most of it. I just provided the initial capital and intimidated a few suppliers. Your intimidation is very helpful. One of my few marketable skills. I leaned into him, watching the sunset over Incheon. The city glittered below us, beautiful and dangerous and ours. Any regrets? He asked softly. I thought about it honestly, about the violence I'd witnessed, the person I'd become, the innocent girl who'd written that warning note and changed everything. No, I said finally, not about this, not about us. Even though I'm still a criminal, even though we're working on it, slowly, very slowly. Rome wasn't built in a day, neither is a reformed crime syndicate. He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. I love you, Imani Okafor, my partner, my queen, my salvation. I love you too, Daesung Choi, my protector, my teacher, my home. We stood together as the sun set, two people who'd found each other in blood and chaos, and somehow built something beautiful from the wreckage. The future was uncertain. There would be more challenges, more threats, more violence. This life didn't come with guarantees, but we'd face it together. Partners, equals, two people who'd chosen each other against all logic and all odds, and somehow that was enough. Behind us, the restaurant hummed with life. Below us, the city pulsed with possibility. Above us, stars emerged one by one, bearing witness to two souls who'd survived the fire and emerged forged together. Ready for whatever comes next? Dez asked. I took his hand, laced our fingers together, and smiled. With you? Always. And I meant it. Every word. This was my life now. Dangerous, complicated, morally ambiguous, but it was mine. Chosen freely, lived fully. I'd started as a waitress trying to survive. I'd become a queen in my own right, and I'd never felt more alive. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below telling me what you thought of Imani and Dez's story. Should there be a sequel? Let me know. And check out my other stories in the playlist. See you in the next one.